From the National Weather Service is again on the line. John?
Yes, Glenn.
What can you tell us now?
I've got a little good news for us. It looks like good news and bad news, as they say. It looks like pretty well west of I-65. Things are shaping up, clearing out, but we still have problems east of I-65. I think that reference point is probably a pretty good one, and things are still working pretty good over to the east of us. There's some activity.
Well, we just had a new warning issued, I think. Byron Crawford was just repeating that as you called in.
For areas down to the south and east of us, that's where it is. So the bulk of the activity is to the south and east of us. I just wanted to pass along that from present indications, there's not too much to the west of us, and so it looks like we can breathe a little freer here in the Jefferson County area for the next few hours anyhow, but we'll get back to you.
John, I had a call a few minutes ago from a fellow in central Indiana, and they are apparently having some difficulty getting weather information in central Indiana. Do you have any indication of what, would it be about the same, those areas that are east of I-65?
Well, probably a little further east in Indiana. It looks like the line of stuff is staying to the east, and that would extend on to the northeast of Louisville also. That would confine the activity in Indiana pretty much to, well, like you say, east of I-65 seems to be where the activity is concentrated. West of that in Indiana also, I would think we can breathe a bit freer. I hate to get over in Indiana because it's property that belongs to Indianapolis. And
we haven't seen anything passed along lately on the wire, which you do include on that the information for Indiana. So
I was just talking to the judge, the court down in Nelson County. You could see one right out his window, and the Dry Ridge State Police just phoned in, and they see one out there, went up there in Dry Ridge. So that bears out the heavy activity to the east of us. But we're getting no reports of any activity at all west of I-65 at the present time.
What about the front? Does it look like it's moved in pretty close?
Well, the front is still quite a ways to the west of us. It's down in West Kentucky. Normally in a situation like this heavy activity, severe activity is confined to an area well east of the front. The front finally comes through. It may break out a shower or something like that, but for the most part, when these things come through this way, the heavy activity, 50 to 100 miles east of the front and on eastward. And we're talking that squall line activity. So that's what we're getting now. That this looks like the backside of it for the time being. But I think we'll keep looking at it closely and get back to you in 30 minutes or so. How about that?
Fine, John. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
John Burke from the National Weather Service. And for those of you in eastern Kentucky, we're going to be with
up until midnight, I understand, with information on the weather, as Glenn was about to say. And we'll go as long as necessary to keep you posted about what's happening throughout the state of Kentucky. It bears repeating right now at this point that we have 2 tornado warnings in effect for 2 areas of Kentucky until 9 o'clock tonight, which is 23 minutes away from now, for persons in Owen, Grant, Pendleton, Bracken, Anderson, Franklin, Scott, Harrison, Robertson, Mason, Woodford, Fayette, Bourbon, Nicholas, Wayne, Pulaski, Mccreary, Laurel, Whitley, Knox, and Clay counties. A tornado warning in effect until 9 o'clock for those areas, and the newest tornado warning until 9:15 this evening for persons in the Kentucky counties of Metcalfe, Greene, Adair, Taylor, Marion, Casey, Washington, Mercer, Boyle, Lincoln, Jessamine, Garrett, and also Nelson, Spencer, and Anderson and Madison counties in Kentucky. If threatening conditions are cited, be prepared to move to a place of safety. That's a tornado warning for those areas until 9:15 tonight. Also, along with city schools being closed tomorrow, we've just received word from Father Casper that all Catholic schools in Louisville and Jefferson County will be closed tomorrow. Still no word as to what will happen to the county public schools tomorrow, but at this point we do know Catholic schools in Louisville and Jefferson County will be closed. Public schools in Louisville will be closed. Also,
it has been suggested to us, and I think it would be appropriate to make a correction. We have been told at one point during the evening that we had 5 deaths in the immediate area around Louisville, the immediate metropolitan area. Fortunately, we are able to revise that downward. We are told now that the various agencies have confirmed only 3 deaths. So let's lower that for the metropolitan Louisville area to 3. For the area all across Kentucky, we can drop it to 14 now. We don't have these deaths pinpointed exactly. We are told that there were a couple in the Elizabethtown area. As soon as it is possible for us to give you an exact location and, yes, an identification of the victims, we will do so.
We have identification on some of the victims in Indiana. So far, reported to us from Borden, Indiana, the person killed there was 73-year-old Harvey Lee Peace. Killed at Depauw were 48-year-old Joyce J. Lincoln. 2 people were killed near Greensburg, Indiana. 50-year-old Miss Emma Fry of Seymour was killed in her automobile 5 miles southeast of Greensburg. 71-year-old Frank Duvelius was also killed in Greensburg. 85-year-old Nimmy Waite was killed at Medora in Jackson County in Indiana. And there are 2 fatalities in the Chelsea, Indiana area. As yet, there have not been identities on those. Okay, now continuing on, some of the other things that we have here, and it begins to be a problem for people who have homes damaged or who have problems. And I'm going to just quickly repeat the areas which still are open for people if you need somewhere to sleep tonight. Wagner High School is still taking people. Highland Junior High School is still taking people who may need a place to sleep tonight. However, Ballard High School is already full. Thomas Jefferson Unitarian Church on Old Brownsboro Road, south of the Holiday Manor Shopping Center, is also taking people for the night, and we have one other. The Westbury Apartments on Linden Lane across from Camelot will take anyone needing shelter for the night. You should contact Maria Estelle, who is the manager there at the Westbury Apartments on Linden Lane across from Camelot. Glenn?
Chuck, I think we have a report that we have taped here somewhere. Jeff, if you could locate that for us, please. A report from Elizabethtown by Ron Boone on what happened down there.
In the Elizabethtown, Hardin County area, there are 2 deaths. These are confirmed, but names are not being released pending notification of next of kin. An unconfirmed report says the 2 deaths are related from the same family, a family of 8. One of the deaths is a 2-year-old child. The other death is a gentleman, and state police are not releasing the names on the identity of these 2 people until next of kin are notified. And the family is so large, as we understand, that it's hard to track down all of the members of the family. There's been considerable property damage in the Elizabethtown area, the North City limits area of Elizabethtown. This reporter was on the scene and saw one mobile home park completely flattened. Also across the street from the mobile home park on North Dixie, the Clayton Mobile Homes, a new business in Elizabethtown. Mobile homes literally turned end on end and upside down. The complete inventory of Clayton Mobile Homes wiped out in one fell swoop. Apparently, the tornado from various sightings in Hardin County came from the west and northwest and moved towards the east and southeast. It struck in the Colesburg and Tunnel Hill areas, and the 2 deaths were apparently in the Colesburg area of Hardin County. Once again, considerable property damage as well as 2 deaths in the Elizabethtown, Hardin County area. This follows in the wake of a storm which destroyed a mobile home park Friday night at Plantation Park, which is only about an air mile from where the second destructive tornado struck down this afternoon. I'm Ron Boone reporting from Elizabethtown.
I'm Chuck Paddock. This is WHAS Radio. It's now 17 minutes before 9. We're staying on the air with continuous news about the weather situation after tornadoes ripped through Indiana, Kentucky, the metro Louisville area, as you just heard, Elizabethtown, and now they're moving into eastern Kentucky. At this point, we should repeat 2 warnings in effect until 9 p.m. for persons in Owen, Grant, Pendleton, Bracken, Anderson, Franklin, Scott, Harrison, Robertson, Mason, Woodford, Fayette, that's the metro Lexington area, Bourbon, Nicholas, Wayne, Pulaski, Mccreary, Laurel, Whitney, Knox, and Clay counties in Kentucky. Until 9 o'clock, you're under a tornado warning. The newest tornado warning, in effect until 9:15, a little over a half hour from now, for persons in the Kentucky counties of Metcalfe, Greene, Adair, Taylor, Marion, Casey, Washington, Mercer, Boyle, Lincoln, Jessamine, and Garrett, along with Nelson, Spencer, Anderson, and Madison counties in Kentucky. A tornado warning for those areas until 9:15 this evening.
Chuck, there is a little bit of confusion. We should point out again that curfew, people may think, well, I live there, I'm going home, or they may think, well, I work there, I'm going to work there. That's not an excuse. It's an absolute curfew in that area in the eastern section of the county.
Right.
And people should understand that, and they are, that serious about it.
I would tend to think, Jeff, that unless they work at some type of an industry which would be vital to the city at this point in that eastern section of the county, or city as it may be, that they won't have to go to work tonight because the county judge, and I understand city government, has asked that anybody who has a business in Jefferson County, the city of Louisville, and can possibly shut down for this third shift tonight should do so. And I would, it's only logical that if there's a curfew for the eastern part of the county and eastern part of the city, that those businesses will not be open tonight. So there's no need to go to work in that area. And like you say, a lot of people may think that, well, I live there, I'm going there, but they're going to be stopped by the police or the National Guard.
A number of people have been stranded in the downtown area, have made attempts to get home in the eastern section of the county, and have gotten so far and then realized that there's absolutely no way they can proceed. Save yourself the trouble and stay downtown. That is really all you can do. Don't attempt the trip and think that you can get by the curfew because you live there. At any rate, enough said.
Okay, now the tremor that we felt earlier across Indiana and Kentucky about 6:05, 6:10 this evening, as we confirmed earlier on the telephone, and it's been confirmed now on the teletype, that a moderate earthquake was recorded today by the National Earthquake Information Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, at Boulder, Colorado. The quake occurred at 5:05 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, which would be 6 o'clock Louisville time, 6:05, and was located in central Illinois. The magnitude was computed at 4.5 to 5 on the Richter scale. The quake was felt from Chicago to Nashville and from St. Louis to Columbus. Now, this is the largest earthquake in the Midwest since back in 1968 when they had one that registered 5.3 on the Richter scale. And as I said, it was located in Metro Louisville, and we also felt it in this area. And now here's Byron Crawford.
Chuck, I have some terribly grim news, and we always hesitate to put these figures on the air. But I've been in touch with authorities who are probably as close to the Brandenburg situation as you can be without actually being in the town of Brandenburg. And although the authorities caution me that they have not yet confirmed the figure, the unconfirmed figure of dead in Brandenburg is 22 persons. Our newsroom had been getting some bad reports from Brandenburg, some reports indicating that as many as 26 persons had been killed by the tornado this afternoon at Brandenburg. The authorities with whom I spoke, again, cautioned me that they have not yet confirmed these figures of 22 dead in Brandenburg, Kentucky, but they also said it'll probably be sometime tomorrow, possibly early tomorrow morning, before they are positive exactly how many persons have been killed at Brandenburg, apparently. And, of course, if that is true, if 22 persons were killed at Brandenburg, then that would certainly be the worst figure for a single city that we have had so far. And Brandenburg is not a large community. Again, to repeat, authorities who have been taking reports out of the tornado-stricken city of Brandenburg, Kentucky, indicate that unconfirmed reports say 22 persons have been killed at Brandenburg. They are in the process now of trying to sift out fact from rumor and decide exactly how accurate that figure is. 22 is the unconfirmed report of those dead in Brandenburg. Chuck, you have something new?
Well, Glenn has something here, I guess. Glenn?
I don't know whether you're going to decipher this or not by yourself, Chuck, but the Red Cross is asking help in locating a 10-year-old boy. This youngster has blonde hair and blue eyes. His father's name is Leonard Curry. And if you have information about 10-year-old Fletcher Curry, please contact the family at 458-6069.
What area might he be in? Do you know?
I have only that information there, Chuck.
Okay. All right. A few moments ago, we ran down the identities of the dead in southern Indiana and central Indiana. At this point, we have a list, an updated list from the Associated Press of the fatalities and the injured, but not all the identities, from Indiana. And I'll attempt to go over those now at this point. In Jefferson County, Indiana, at Chelsea, 2 dead. At Jefferson County, Indiana, in Hanover, 1 dead. At Hamburg in Franklin County, Indiana, 2 dead, 7 injured. Cortland in Jackson County, 1 dead. Ohio County, 1 dead. Dearborn County, 1 dead. Switzerland County, 1 dead. Greensburg and Decatur County, 1 dead. Ripley County, 1 dead. Otterbein and Tippecanoe County of Indiana, 1 dead, 4 injured. Branchville and Perry County, 1 dead, 1 critically injured. Depauw and Harrison County across the river from Louisville, 1 dead. Rochester in Marshall County, 2 dead. Borden in Clark County, 1 dead, 41 injured, 1 critically. Here's a list of injuries from Hancock County, 27 admitted to the Hancock County Hospital. In Kennard in Indiana, 8 injuries. Parker, Indiana, 6 injuries. Bartholomew County, that's the Salem, Indiana area, or the Columbus, Indiana area, 6 injured. And checking back, we might best repeat, it never hurts to repeat these enough, I imagine, the tornado warnings, which are now in effect until 9 o'clock this evening for Owen, Grant, Pendleton, Bracken, Anderson, Franklin, Scott, Harrison, Robertson, Mason, Woodford, Fayette, Bourbon, Nicholas, Wayne, Pulaski, Mccreary, Laurel, Whitley, Knox, and Clay counties in Kentucky until 9 o'clock, a tornado warning. And until 9:15 this evening, Metcalf, Greene, Adair, Taylor, Marion, Casey, Washington, Mercer, Boyle, Lincoln, Jessamine, Garrett, Nelson, Spencer, Anderson, and Madison counties in Kentucky, a tornado warning until 9:15. Glenn Baston, you have some more information.
Well, I have Civil Defense Headquarters in Frankfort on the line now. Mr. Arnett, you tell me that you can indeed confirm that tragedy in the Brandenburg area.
Yes, the tornado pretty much hit Brandenburg full scale. We have a confirmed 23 casualties at Brandenburg.
What time? Do you have any idea what time this all happened? Was this prior to Louisville? Or?
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say it again.
Well, I'm just trying to get some idea of what actually happened down there. There was a tornado. What did it sweep through a residential section, or do you have that information?
And okay, they were right in the path of a tornado, and it walked right through town and just went on out the other side. It happened to hit the residential and business district, which of course meted all the casualties.
Was this late afternoon that this occurred?
I'm trying to look here at a report when it hit. I've got a number here about 4:10 this afternoon.
What else around the state have you been able to confirm to this point?
Okay, we've had a number of casualties other than Brandenburg. We had a couple in Elizabethtown, a couple in Frankfort, and I think 3 in Irvington at this present time.
Well, when you add in the 3 that we have had here in metropolitan Louisville, we're going to exceed, at this point, 30 deaths around Kentucky.
That's affirmative.
Is there anything that Civil Defense would like to request of those in the Kentucky area?
Well, those that are listening to the radio at this present time, we, of course, want to clear all the outside areas. We have emergency vehicles on the way. If they're not there, they're pretty much going down the streets trying to take care of all the emergencies that have arisen. If you have no official function outside right at the present time, we request you stay indoors. Of course, listen to the radio. And if anybody calls on assistance, I'm sure everybody is going to be cooperative in this respect.
Are you soliciting volunteers?
Not right at this present time. Most of the volunteer efforts will have to go into full scale tomorrow around daybreak.
I guess it's a rather difficult chore just to dig in and find the injured people at this point.
That's affirmative. We've got National Guard alerted in several areas at the present time. Of course, the city police, fire departments, rescue squads are out searching right at the present time in the areas. There's going to be many rural areas that we cannot get to right at the present time, but we hope to get to them as soon as possible.
If there is anyone that is in need of assistance anywhere in the state, is there a central place they can go to that they can telephone if possible, or?
Yes, we have this open here as a central point for Kentucky. Of course, it's in the basement of the Capitol. Phone number here is 564-4796. If of course, if we can give any assistance at all, that's what we're here for.
You're in the 502 area code.
Yes.
564-4796 for Civil Defense Headquarters in Frankfort.
Yes.
Well, I thank you very much for that report, and if you will check with us or we'll check with you throughout the evening, we would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Civil Defense in Frankfort, and unfortunately giving us confirmation of what is a terrible tragedy in the Brandenburg area with 23 deaths confirmed there. They have added to that several from other sections of Kentucky, and we now will exceed more than 30 deaths from those storms which swept through the Kentucky area and in some cases into Indiana. And as Chuck Paddock listed for you moments ago, there have been several deaths throughout Indiana. We'll continue to try to get information on this.
Yes, Glenn, meteorologist Dave Reeves of the Weather Service, who has been with us most of the afternoon and tonight. Dave, what is the situation now?
At the present time, everything in western Kentucky, west of the Interstate 65, is clear of thunderstorm activity, and we think the threat of other thunderstorm activity in that area is over for the evening. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect in northern Kentucky counties of Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, and there's still some heavy thunderstorm activity in general in the eastern half of the state. We heard from Dry Ridge State Police about 20 minutes ago, and they were seeing a funnel go by in front of their station.
Where was this, Dave?
Dry Ridge. That's in Grant County.
Right.
So everything is now as active as in eastern part of the state, and hopefully it'll be diminishing here in the next few hours.
All right. Thank you, Dave Reeves. We appreciate it, and we'll be talking with you later on.
All right, sir.
This is WHAS, and the time is about 4 minutes before 9 o'clock. Glenn Baston.
I have, excuse me, Curtis, I have Curtis Craig of LG&E on the phone, and we were chatting about some of the problems that the electric company is having. Let's go on the air, Curtis, and if you will, please give us an updated situation.
All right. We've had more numbers out in the past, but most of our people that have been with the company a long time say that they can foresee longer hours and more work to restore service in this one than in anything they have ever seen. So it could possibly be one of the worst that we've ever had.
What about that water company situation, Curtis?
The pole lines serving the water company, so many poles were down that they don't have time to put those back up. But they picked out a shorter route for a temporary line. They're digging the holes now. The poles are on the way, the other materials, and that's the top priority of all the jobs.
So we do have an optimistic outlook at least for that.
I think so. We don't have a time schedule on it, but that's the number one project.
Are there any areas of the city or the county or in your service area that are really large in nature and without power?
I'm not sure that I can pick an area. If we did pick one, it would be in the east end of the vicinity of Waterston Expressway and Highway 71.
Curtis, we're going to remain on the air here all night if it's necessary. If you get updated information, we would sure appreciate your calling us back again.
Well, we're going to be around here a lot of hours, so I'll call you back.
Thank you much.
Okay, bye.
I have a note here from the police department. They are saying now use no water except for an emergency. No water except for an emergency in metropolitan Louisville. Now, of course, there was an optimistic report there from Curtis Craig of Louisville Gas and Electric. His firm is responsible for getting the power back to the pumping station at Crescent Hill. They're working as fast as they can, but they still can't give us a time frame. So we've been without this now. What are we approaching? Something like 6 hours, 5.5 hours, something of that nature. If what they told us at the beginning is true, we could be getting very low. So please use no water except for emergencies. I have been given a new severe thunderstorm warning. This will remain in effect until 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time for the northern Kentucky counties of Boone, Kenton, and Campbell. For those of you in Ohio, the counties of Hamilton and Clermont. Again, repeating, we have a severe thunderstorm warning. It's in effect for northern Kentucky's counties of Boone, Kenton, and Campbell. The southwestern Ohio counties included in this severe thunderstorm watch, Hamilton and Clermont. Radar indicating several thunderstorms over northern Kentucky that are moving to the northeast, 40 to 50 miles per hour. There has been hail of 1 inch in diameter reported just to the southwest of Walton, Kentucky. If those of you in eastern Kentucky should cite severe weather, please move to a place of safety as soon as possible. It might also be advisable for you to seek out some shelter at this moment. Our reports continue to be revised as far as the deaths reported throughout Kentuckiana. I am now told that we have 5 dead in Louisville, that this has been again confirmed. They have found 2 other bodies. They, of course, tell us that they have confirmed that huge number of deaths in Brandenburg, Kentucky. We have something on the phone line, Jeff.
Glenn, you please pick this up. This is a reporter from the Meade County Messenger in Brandenburg, and would like to fill us in on what has happened.
Hello.
Yes.
This is WHAS?
Yes, this is Jane Willis with the Meade County Messenger in Brandenburg,
Yes,
and I wondered
Jane.
if you all wanted any information
Please, we are on the air live now. Please give us all you have.
Okay, it happened right at 4:10. That is the time our clock stopped. The downtown section where we live and work is pretty much demolished. 3 people were taken out dead from the downtown area. There were a large number that were injured, whether seriously or not. You know, we heard these reports of people being taken out on doors. It was true. That's what we had to carry them out on. The 24 figure that has been given by the state policemen, they have set up a morgue at the high school. One that we know was dead was Robert Dressel, who was a councilman at Muldrow, a city councilman. And he was killed in the downtown area. And he has been identified. There is at least 1 missing that we know of, missing. It's just terrible.
Jane, our reports from Civil Defense Headquarters used a figure, I think, 23. You are saying 24 plus 1 missing, is that correct?
The state patrolman told me 24. And one of my friends said we can't find this friend's mother. And
what about the physical property of the town? What happened to that? What has it done to Brandenburg?
Well, it's in shambles, an absolute shambles. We were fortunate. Our family is all safe. Our employees are all safe. My mother, well, she was tremendous. She herded us into the basement, and we said, "Oh, we need the door open." She saved our building. She opened the door, and she doesn't remember it because she was knocked into the basement stairway, and she saved us, because if the building had fallen in, obviously we would have all been killed. The building next to us, at least half of it has fallen off. Several really old brick places, with 3 courses of brick, are just rubble.
What are the people doing, Jane? Are they able to get out? Have those buildings that were demolished been searched?
Yes, most of them were in the downtown area. This is where we were. This is where I was shortly after it happened, for at least an hour. We all, as soon as it was over, ran out and started hollering for our friends. And all of us were able to find out who was there. And everyone that should have been there was there, except in 2 buildings that were that they had to dig people out of, or say 3 buildings.
How long did the storm last? Was it something that just hit and did the destruction and then immediately...
Yes, I would say it was over in 5 minutes. No more than that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
in fact, I was so... well, I just didn't think it was coming. I was going to go out and take a picture of it. Mm-hmm. You know, that it just didn't... It just came up on us.
Uh-huh. There was... I quite honestly can't recall, but was there warning... were you aware that we had tornado watches throughout the day?
I was not aware of it because I wasn't. I was working on getting the paper out, and that's kind of a noisy job, and you don't listen to too many other things, you know. While
tell us again, please, if you will, Jane, about the situation with those bodies that they are finding. What are they doing with them?
They are taking them to the high school building.
That would be the Meade County.
That would be the Meade County High School building. I don't know whether there is anybody answering the telephone there. I can give you the number if you want it.
Well,
whether it's working, we're lucky. One of our 2 lines is working.
Uh-huh.
The other one just is dead.
Okay. Why don't I get those numbers from you after we leave? After we leave the air, Jane.
Okay.
You tell me that they have now 1 person identified. Are there emergency vehicles? Are they able to get into the community, into the town?
Yes. We have several helicopters that are coming in. Apparently people... This is one nice thing about rural neighborhoods, you know. Everybody has a chainsaw.
Uh-huh.
And the roads were cleared fairly quickly. There were several large trees that were blown over the roads. But the county and the state road companies were able to get out and push trees, physically push them off the roads.
Were there any fires, anything of that nature?
Not that I know of. None have been reported to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jane, fine. I thank you for calling very much, and don't go away. I'm going to give you to another gentleman in our newsroom, Dave Kiefer, and let him get these particular numbers from you. Thank you again for calling.
Glenn, we have... an emergency call here from Frankfort for a drugstore. It's about as simple as that. Those people in Frankfort were, of course, hard hit today, and they need drug supplies very badly, apparently drug supplies of all types. If you are a druggist or if you have access to drugs of the type that would be needed to treat emergency patients, then you're requested to call the Frankfort radio station, which I imagine is also on the air like we are all night tonight, trying to see to it that Frankfort gets put back together. The station's call letters are WFKY. The number is, of course, the area code 502-875-1973. That's the number for the Frankfort radio station. They need drug supplies very badly in Frankfort. The number is area code 502-875-1973. The midnight shift at the Naval Ordnance is not to go to work tonight. The Anaconda Container and Package Foil plant on Robards Lane will shut down with the 11 o'clock shift. All employees should check with radio and TV for the day shift. And the Highland Daycare Center located at 1415 Bardstown Road won't be open tomorrow. We can almost take it for granted that most places of that nature in the hard-hit areas won't be open tomorrow. Also, many of the industries in Louisville, all of the industries that would require a large amount of transportation of employees and so forth, are asked to voluntarily curtail operations somewhat until we get some type of handle on the situation and decide what can be done tomorrow when things are cleared up overnight. And this is on a voluntary basis, but officials would certainly like for you to curtail operations so as to not necessitate undue travel and use the water, which is running out to a point now because we only have a few hours supply, and they are working like mad to get the facilities at Crescent Hill, the pumping station there, put together again, and so we won't have too much of a water shortage tomorrow, hopefully. They tell us it could be at least 6 or 7 more hours before that takes place. The repairs are completed. Anyone who has missing family in Borden, Indiana, should go to Borden High School to report missing or to find those missing. We had been given indications that there was at least one death in Borden, Indiana, in Clark County, and that another 41 persons were injured. Earlier tonight, we heard that 35 persons had been treated at Clark County Memorial Hospital, and that 7 had been admitted. Of course, that just barely scratches the surface as to what the situation is in Indiana. We have dozens probably killed or injured in Indiana, and maybe scores injured. Xenia, Ohio, north of Cincinnati, was hard hit. It's been declared a disaster area by Governor John Gilligan. Cincinnati lost 2 or 3 persons at last word, and 3 square blocks down near the river in Sailor Park were totally leveled. And, of course, probably the worst news we've heard all night has been from Brandenburg, Kentucky, where I gather we have had at least 24 persons confirmed dead and possibly others missing there, and countless injured. In Jefferson County, 5 persons reported dead, a couple of hundred maybe being treated for their injuries or admitted to hospitals. And in Frankfort, there are dead, and they are not blessed with many hospitals down there and great hospital facilities. So the situation there could become critical, and that's why we ask you if you can help supply any drugs that would be needed in hospital emergency rooms to contact authorities in Frankfort. Glenn?
We have just received information that Jefferson County schools will be closed tomorrow. Philip Morris, third shift today, and Ole tomorrow will be closed. The third shift at the American Salt and Tool will not report for work tonight. Now, there is a fantastic effort underway to clean up these areas hard hit by this afternoon's storm in the metropolitan Louisville area. Scott Gregory is the Works Director for Jefferson County and is on the line now. Scott, what can you tell us about the situation?
What we have done is we're working out of the Civil Defense Room with the City Works Department, with the Metropolitan Parks Department, and with all these other agencies. We have all of our available crews, and that's every man that we can, that is not sick or for some reason in the field right now, and we're not observing any jurisdictional lines. Our crews are in the city, their crews are in the county. We have volunteers, particularly from the Associated General Contractors, sending equipment into the area to do whatever is necessary to clear the roads, to try to put as much of the wreckage back out of the way, to help with any rescue efforts that might be needed, bringing spotlights into the area for night work, and we've got as much equipment as we can get in. One of the biggest hindrances we're running into, and we just can't reiterate this enough, is people sightseeing. We can't get our equipment through. We've been blocked several places because of traffic jams, and we desperately need for people to get off the roads unless they have to be there.
You do not then need additional equipment and volunteers as we
Yes,
had.
we're taking volunteers. Any volunteers that can do manual work and operate any equipment or are willing to work hard, we'd like to have report to the Adam District Police Station on Whips Mill Road, where they'll be escorted into the area to do work. But we don't need sightseers.
All right, the Adam District Police Station.
That's right.
Are sightseers still causing a problem, Scott?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There's the traffic in some of these roads is got it jammed to the point where we have been unable at times to move any of our equipment into this area.
Well, folks, let us then reiterate, along with Mr. Gregory, the Works Director, please do not go out unless you are going to the Adams Station on Whips Mill Road of the Police Department to assist in this massive cleanup effort that they are organizing. Mr. Gregory, thank you much.
Thank you. Bye.
We are now at 13 minutes past 9 o'clock. Our problem in the Kentuckiana area, for those of you outside, developed late this afternoon when a series of very heavy and intense storms moved through Kentucky and Indiana. We have also had reports of storms from various other states. Along with that, we had a slight earthquake. Well, not exactly a slight earthquake, probably one of the strongest we've had in this area in some time. It measured 4.5 on the scale, shook some windows, rattled some glasses on the shelves and things of this nature, but we're told that that was not strong enough to cause any major damage. But those tornadoes and storms and things of this nature was really what caused the problem. We have had massive property damage. We have had far greater numbers of deaths than we would like to have been able to report. We've or to have had to report. We have had in one community, Brandenburg, Kentucky, as many as 24 people killed. In the metropolitan Louisville area, our death toll now at 5. Area-wide, I would assume in Kentucky and Indiana, we're going to surpass 50 before it's all totaled up, quite likely more. Byron Crawford?
Really nothing new at this point, except that, of course, WHAS-TV is also covering the storm damage. We understand that Governor Ford is calling in, is supposed to call in shortly at any rate, for an interview with TV newsman Ken Rowland. We thought we'd try to pick it up here live, and always...
talked with the governor earlier in the evening, and for those of you, we had a lady who called and said that her power had been off and she was not updated, and the governor, with our conversation earlier, did in fact call out the National Guard for many areas in the state of Kentucky. He has, I'm told, already been in contact with Washington, getting the wheels rolling on getting aid into the area. More aid, we should say. We had that problem earlier in the week up in Henry County, in the Campbellsburg area. The governor already working on getting aid in for the areas that were damaged this afternoon.
You know, Glenn, it's more weird for Kentucky to be involved in a situation of this kind because I'm, of course, was brought up in Kentucky, and so were you, but I don't recall us ever having tragedies of this magnitude in Kentucky, and it seems that we've had an increase in tornado activity in the past few years. And so coping with situations like this sometimes may be a little bit new to officials in Kentucky and to us. But this is certainly a time that should call out the best in each of us as far as cooperation at any rate. Do you have something new there?
Well, I've just been told that Battery B, 5th Battalion, 138th Field Artillery, should report to the Armory at the fairgrounds immediately. This conflicts a little bit with some information we had earlier because we were told earlier that they could not get to the Armory, if I remember correctly.
They were to meet at that time at US 42 in Pennington Lane, but I assume that since they are equipped with radios which are not obstructed by the power shortages that we have, that they're in good contact and fairly well organized and know where they're going.
And to repeat that, that's Battery B, 5th Battalion, 138th Field Artillery. You should report to the Armory at the fairgrounds immediately. The midnight shift at the Naval Ordnance, you will not go to work tonight.
And anyone who has relatives or friends missing in Borden, Indiana, and needs to contact them should go to Borden High School to report missing or to find missing persons. I'm led to believe that we're getting close to the interview on television with Governor Ford, and we'll go to that now.
Bob, Kentucky is in a state of extreme emergency. The tornadoes in many parts of Kentucky continue to be critical. Every available resource the state government is working to help the many stricken areas. This includes state police, National Guard, Department of Transportation, Department of Natural Resources, Civil Defense, and many others. I've been in contact with Senator Hulliston and Ron Mazzoli's office, and the federal disaster teams are en route to Kentucky. I've talked with officials in affected areas and am heartened with the spirit of cooperation between the communities. For example, within 25 minutes after I called the University of Kentucky Medical Center, an emergency medical team had arrived in Frankfort to assist the local hospital, which is overflowing with injuries and fatalities. I want to assure you that all state and local government units are doing everything in their power to handle this most serious situation. But we need the people's cooperation. I ask them to please stay off the highways and away from the disaster areas. This will permit the rapid movement of emergency vehicles. Please, in areas affected by the storms, refrain from using telephones, which are badly overloaded and are needed for emergency communications. And if we all work together, we can minimize the loss of life and more quickly assist those in the greatest need, Bob.
Governor, given the size of the community, it would appear that Brandenburg, Kentucky, which is on the Ohio River west of Louisville, apparently is the hardest hit. What do you hear about Brandenburg?
Bob, Brandenburg is just horrible. We have 23 confirmed deaths in that small community. We have medical helicopters from Fort Knox in there evacuating the injured. We have the National Guard units in there, the State Highway Department. We sent 150 National Guard members from Owensboro to Brandenburg. And Irvington, by the way, very close by. It was hard hit also, and they have 3 deaths. So it started in southwest Kentucky and cut a path right through Kentucky. Seems like we're Tornado Alley right now, and I'm not sure about my terminology here, but as high as 62,000 feet the cell is supposed to be, and it's right over Kentucky, right in the center of Kentucky, and we can expect probably more high winds before morning.
Governor, what is the situation in Frankfort itself? I understand that there was damage and several deaths in the eastern part of the city.
That's true, Bob. A little community known as Jet, and in an area where many efficiency apartments were located, along with a very fine subdivision. That area was just practically flattened, and we'd have 2 known deaths now, and the hospital here is giving first aid and sending the injuries to Lexington.
That's the area on the Versailles side of Frankfort, is it not?
That is correct. It's right between Highway 60 and or Highway 421 and I-64. That area right along there as the interstate crosses over Highway 60.
Governor, thank you very much.
Bob, I thank you all very much for your cooperation. You've been most kind and helpful to us, and anything we can do during the night, and I know you will do it, we want to try to help the people. And I want to reiterate, stay out of the areas, stay off the streets, and give the people an opportunity to perform their job.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Bob.
WHAS-TV being interviewed by Bob Johnson. Governor Ford described Kentucky as being in an extreme state of emergency. He said the situation in Brandenburg is horrible. We have learned that there are at least 24 dead in Brandenburg, and that a temporary morgue, has been set up at a school there, and that, of course, in other sections of Kentucky there are more dead, some dead in Frankfort, and the figures aren't nearly as terrible as those we're getting from Brandenburg, but at least 2 dead in Elizabethtown, including a baby, 2 in Frankfort, 3 in Irvington in Breckinridge County, 5 in Metro Louisville, 1 in Borden, Indiana, and the toll goes on, and it most certainly will be tomorrow before we have any accurate figures on how many persons were killed, and even longer still before we learn how many were injured and how many were hospitalized because of the storm today. Glenn, before you take this, we apparently have had several responses in the newsroom about the message we put on from the Red Cross asking for help in finding a 10-year-old Fletcher Curry, described only as having blonde hair and blue eyes. His father is Leonard Curry, whose phone number is listed as 458-6069. The number 458-6069. I tried a few minutes ago to call Mr. Curry, but never was able to reach him. The phone line was apparently out of order. His address is listed as 1801 Spring Drive. I'll give you the number again in case you know the whereabouts of 10-year-old Fletcher Curry. His father's name is Leonard Curry. The number is 458-6069.
We have a report from the Associated Press, and they have tabulated deaths all through the Ohio Valley. They have 31 deaths tabulated for Kentucky. It's going to go above that. We know that without doubt. They have 19 deaths tabulated in Indiana now. They have at least 12 in Ohio, 2 in Illinois, 3 in Alabama, 2 in Tennessee, and 1 in Georgia. Again, those figures from the Associated Press, they say at least 70 people in those states outside Kentucky and Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. That number we know is going to go much higher from the deaths that we have tabulated so far within the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We've been out of touch with the rest of the nation for some time now, Byron. We have not had news, but there was one development that we probably should pass along. Out in California, the Hearst family received another tape recording from Patricia Hearst. And on this tape, she is renouncing her family, saying that she is going to join her terrorist kidnappers and begin life anew as a revolutionary. And in a news conference, her father, Randolph Hearst, said, "Personally, I don't believe it. If it is her choice to become a member of an organization like this, we still love her." Mrs. Hearst also expressing disbelief. Her words, "I know my daughter very well. I know my girl. She would never join an organization like that without being coerced." And her fiancé said that he too does not believe that she had joined arms with the terrorist. He said, "It seems incredibly cynical on the part of the SLA to think I can believe Patty has refused her freedom." The tape recording was sent to a San Francisco radio station. It had the voice of Miss Hearst saying that she was joining her captors, the Sudanese Liberation Army. We have been given the written confirmation of what Dick Reeves of the Weather Service told us on the air earlier, that the western half of Kentucky now is generally clear of the thunderstorm activity. We would assume that the western half of Indiana is as well generally clear. Some of you may be wondering why we haven't talked about what is happening in your area. We're trying to point out those areas that are still having difficulty. So if we are not particularly talking about where you're located, that means that we do not have anything active at the moment. For eastern Kentucky, we still have this potential of severe weather, so please stay with us, and we will bring you information as soon as possible. And we mentioned earlier, Byron, that they need some drugs in Frankfort. It was suggested that anyone who has access to a drugstore or a druggist call the radio station in Frankfort. Now, the radio station is not on the air, but there should be someone at the phone number 875-1973 to take the call. That's an area code 502. Although that station is not on the air, and they are listening to WHAS for their information, I understand. But you can still call if you have access to some needed material in Frankfort, 875-1973.
Glenn, I don't like to go on with information like this particularly because it doesn't go on to explain exactly what it means, but the note was just handed us that the water reservoir has breaks in it and is now leaking. Apparently this means they're going to see if they have repaired things to the extent that the pumps will be working, but the water reservoir has breaks in it and is now leaking. We don't, of course, know what caused the breaks in the reservoir or how serious they are. We'll merely have to await word from the Louisville Water Company. Meantime, let us caution you again that this makes the conservation of water even more serious than it was before. We must conserve water, and even if it means personal sacrifices for us. They are now asking that we use no water, and that is until they find out exactly what the situation is. Perhaps by sometime early tomorrow morning, we can tell you exactly when the water situation will be improved, when the electricity has been restored properly to the water company pumping station, which was hit directly by a tornado this afternoon in Louisville, and when we can start using perhaps even a limited amount of water, and then finally, hopefully, sometime tomorrow maybe, get back to full usage. But all of this now is in doubt. Glenn, do you have any more information there, or are we reviewing what we have gone over before?
We are now getting to the point where we're getting specific information about closings and things of that nature. The Anaconda Container and Package Foil plant on Robards Lane will shut down at its 11 o'clock, the end of its 11 o'clock shift. All employees who will be affected by this, the information as to when the company will be back in operation, whether or not it will be tomorrow, will be transmitted to you by radio. The Highland Daycare Center, located at 1415 Bardstown Road, will be closed tomorrow. A fellow who's been helping us tremendously tonight, Jeff Douglas. Jeff?
Watching you is more difficult than doing what I'm doing. Glenn, I have a lady here on the line who is would like very much to help out in that situation. We talked about the need of drugs and the radio station. Was it W?
She on the proper line?
Yeah, well, she just needs the phone number.
She needs the phone number. I'm going to sift through my information and come up with that. Here it is, 875.
That's 875.
1973.
1973, okay. The area code is
502.
502. Thank you.
Glenn and Jeff, perhaps there are persons, and we certainly hope not, who do need shelter tonight, whose homes were destroyed. And so we give you this information. City Hall in Lebanon Junction will take in stranded persons. If you can't make it home, if your car is non-operative or whatever, the Lebanon Junction City Hall will take in stranded. Looks like Westbury Apartments on Linden Lane across from Camelot will take in anyone needing shelter. See the manager, Maria Estelle. And I can't make out the next one, but I don't think that's anything to concern persons who don't have shelter anyway. By the way, the Louisville Free Public Library and branches will be closed tomorrow. This would probably go for most places of that nature, libraries and what have you, perhaps most daycare centers and kindergartens and what have you. Of course, we don't have all the specific information, and if we did, it would take hours to relay it to you. But perhaps in the morning, and hopefully we can get all this information together sometime before you get out and about tomorrow. And as you're leaving, WHAS News will hopefully be able to tell you what's operating and what isn't, where you can go and where you can't go. As of tonight, the whole area in the eastern section of Jefferson County, out Eastern Parkway and in the Brownsboro Road area, the Cherokee Park area, Seneca Park, all those areas are under what they call an absolute curfew. And it means exactly what it says. You are simply not permitted in those areas unless you are an official who has the proper credentials to be on the job. And if you're in those areas and you don't have the credentials and you're not there to help out in the first place, then you stand a good likelihood of being arrested, because it's something that just simply has to be done. And police regret it, but they explain that there's no way to be lenient with people who shouldn't be there but still are. There is always, of course, the threat of looting, and in that way the persons who have already suffered great losses of personal property might lose even more. Now, as for the rest of the county which may have some limbs down and so forth, but was not raked by the tornado, the curfew is not absolute, simply voluntary, but you would still be doing yourself a gigantic favor by not getting on the streets of Louisville and Jefferson County at all, if you don't have to. Emergency crews are out. There are huge limbs and live wires in the street, and you run a risk of being injured even if you're out tonight. So let's try to keep travel at a minimum. Let's try not to use the phone, and let's at all expense try to conserve water, because it's something that could help us out tomorrow, depending on what the situation turns into tonight. For you folks in eastern Kentucky, east of I-65, generally, you should be on the alert for possible threatening weather conditions, even tornadoes developing. The Weather Service put most of the counties east of Louisville. If you drew a line from Louisville to Mccreary County, most of the counties east of Louisville, including those in northern Kentucky, are under either severe thunderstorm warnings or watches or tornado watches or warnings. They did this, I think, simply because it's so hard to predict where the tornadoes will touch down. So be aware if you're in the counties east of I-65, generally in Kentucky. The west, all clear right now. We have a cold front which could reach us sometime late tonight or early tomorrow. Glenn Baston?
Well, I'm on the line again with Civil Defense Headquarters, and I have Lieutenant Eskridge of the County Police Department. Would you give us, please, sir, the latest on our curfew situation?
Curfew is a county-wide curfew. Runs from 7:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
All right, now, is this an absolute curfew county-wide now?
Yes.
Okay, so police and National Guardsmen are stopping everyone that's anywhere in Jefferson County, unless they're involved in some way in the efforts to clear up this situation.
Yes, sir, that's my understanding.
All right, are we having any real problems? Are people sightseeing giving you difficulty?
I'm unable to answer that. I'm here in the Civil Defense Post, and I haven't had any reports of that.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything in specific that has the Civil Defense Office concerned at the moment?
No, sir. I don't know of any. I just take care of the police section.
Nothing outstanding except what we've had going on throughout the evening, I guess, huh?
Yes, sir.
Well, Lieutenant Eskridge, the curfew, county-wide now, and it is an absolute curfew.
Yes, sir.
I thank you, sir. This is WHAS in Louisville, Kentucky, continuing to broadcast with information concerning the storm situation not only in Louisville and Jefferson County, but across the entire area. We will continue to do so as long as is necessary. Those officials who have information that should be passed along, please give us an indication of it. Our telephone line is 585-2385, and I will ask those of you in the general public who are simply asking us questions not to utilize this number tonight. Normally it is open to you, and we welcome your calls, but tonight I ask you, please do not use this. Let us keep it open for communication with civil defense and with the various police and rescue agencies. To reiterate some of the things that, unfortunately, we know. We have a number of deaths throughout the area. The hardest hit area as far as deaths are concerned is Brandenburg, Kentucky. The number is as many as 24. There is still a report that there is one person missing. They have had very bad luck there, not only with all the deaths, but a large portion of the community destroyed by the storm, which hit shortly after 4 o'clock this afternoon. In the Louisville area, we have confirmed now 5 deaths. We probably will continue throughout the evening to get reports on injuries, but the injuries are going to get up right at this moment to somewhere around 200. Area-wide, the deaths are going to probably exceed 50. This would include Indiana as well as the entire state of Kentucky. Jim West covered much of what happened in southern Indiana tonight. Let's call him in. Jim, you tell us where you've been and what you know.
Well, Glenn, first place we went to was Palmyra. The tornado that struck at Palmyra was struck approximately an hour to an hour and a half prior to the one which moved through the Louisville area. So we could place the Palmyra tornado at about 3:30 for this afternoon. The tornado cut a path at least a mile to a mile and a half wide from the area of Depauw through Palmyra, then into the Borden and Martinsburg areas. These are areas which are 20-25 miles west and northwest of New Albany. Indiana State Police say the town of Martinsburg was wiped out. 37 homes in the Daisy Hill section of Borden were leveled, killing 1 person, injuring 41 others. In Depauw, 1 woman was killed, 8 others injured, 9 homes and 12 mobile homes destroyed. At Palmyra, where we visited, state police say as many as 70 homes were destroyed. These border US 150. Many were just a couple of years old. The highway was closed, of course, with downed wires and trees. And we spoke with one individual at Palmyra who was in his home at the time and just managed to get into the cellar, the crawl space underneath the home. The entire frame of the house was lifted off of his head. He and his wife and 2 children were at home. They huddled in the corner of the crawl space, which is only 3 to 4 feet deep. A coat was jerked out of his wife's arms, and they felt tremendous suction trying to pull them into the fury of the storm. However, they managed to hold their own, and their lives were spared. Those that were injured, however, were taken to hospitals in New Albany, Clarksville, Corydon, and Harrison County, and Salem and Washington County. At Floyd County Memorial in New Albany, 49 people were treated for injuries, 7 were admitted. At Clark County, 19 people were admitted, 15 from the town of Borden alone. 2 people treated and released. At Washington County Hospital, 12 have been treated, 6 were admitted. Phone lines to Harrison County Hospital are apparently down, so no injured figure is available from that hospital. The Red Cross has set up shelters at the Borden High School, the Palmyra Conservation Club, and the Morgan Township School in New Salsbury. Also, about a dozen individuals have been put up for the night at motels in New Albany, those individuals who had come into town to receive emergency medical attention. So that's basically the situation in southern Indiana. There are reports, sporadic reports from all over the southern half of the state, even the northern part of the state, with scattered fatalities, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly the path that the storm took. But this was one of the hardest hit areas, we're pretty certain.
Well, Jim, those storms, I think, hit just about everywhere in Kentuckiana. There's not many places that were left untouched.
Glenn, perhaps I should mention this. I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but county schools have been closed tomorrow. We're talking about Jefferson County schools. The city schools have been closed tomorrow, and apparently Father Casper is closing the the Catholic schools. So virtually all the schools in Jefferson County and Louisville will be closed tomorrow. All right, Glenn.
Okay, the Perry County, Indiana schools will be closed too. Sergeant Gene Hicks, are you still with me? Apparently he went on hold there for a second, but we have Sergeant Gene Hicks of the LaGrange State Police Post on the line. Can you tell us what situation you have up there, Sergeant?
Well, in the Oldham County area around Brownsboro, we had there were 3 or 4 houses and 2 house trailers were damaged. Also, we had some minor injuries. In Kentucky, on Kentucky 146, 2 east of Crestwood, there were, 2 houses damaged, 3 barns were destroyed. Kentucky 53, a mile south of LaGrange, we had 1 house damaged. Also, the bank building under construction there was damaged. 2 east of LaGrange on the Jericho Road, we had a house trailer. A house trailer completely destroyed. In the Henry County area, again, around Campbellsburg, they've really been having their problems. We had 4 or 5 houses and a couple barns up there were destroyed. The Wolf Pen Branch Road in Henry County, we had 2 houses there were damaged. Around the Pendleton area of, it's also in Henry County, we had, 2 or 3 house trailers there were damaged, and also some minor injuries. And then a late report that just came in just a few minutes ago in Owen County. There was quite a bit of heavy property damage in the northern part of Owen County, and then the Lacey area of Henry County. That's a little town about 5 or 6 miles north of Newcastle. There was 1 house trailer completely destroyed there and several barns, and I believe there are 2 or 3 more barns that were slightly damaged. And as of right now, that's the latest report that we have had. We've had about, I believe, 7 or 8 people have been slightly injured, and then numerous reports of property damage.
You do not apparently, Sergeant, and for this we are quite thankful, have reports of any deaths.
No, we don't have any reports of any deaths, and so far we've been pretty lucky and no reports of any serious injuries. We still are getting a few phone calls in, and the electricity up here now is all off, and we have had several calls on that. I don't know how long it's going to be before the electricity is back in service.
We thank you very much for your very fine report from LaGrange area, Sergeant Gene Hicks of the LaGrange State Police Post. And fortunately from that area, they do not have any deaths to add to that growing list that is being compiled here at WHAS. Again, thank you, Sergeant. Let's go back to Jim West now. And Jim has been able to get the identities of some of the victims in the southern Indiana storms. Jim?
Glenn, so far the identities are coming in one at a time, such as 73-year-old Harvey Lee Peace, killed in Borden, 48-year-old Joyce J. Lincoln, killed in the community of Depauw. 2 people were killed near Greensburg. A 50-year-old Miss Emma Fry of Seymour was killed in her automobile about 5 miles southeast of Greensburg. And 71-year-old Daniel DeVelius was also killed in that community. 85-year-old Nimmy Waite was killed in Medora in Jackson County. There are 2 fatalities in the Chelsea, Indiana area, but as of yet, those identities have not been made public. So that brings us up to date so far in Indiana.
Okay, we have a report that the water reservoir has breaks in it and is now leaking. They're going to try the pumps in about 15 minutes. At about 10 o'clock, it's actually 17 and a half minutes from now. They're going to try the pumps and see if those are going to be functioning again. The pumps went out late this afternoon when the tornado hit directly on the water company reservoir on Crescent Hill. We will try again to get in touch with the water company. Communications in some cases not all that fantastic this evening throughout Kentuckiana. Of course, we have asked you for the phone company to limit your use of the telephone so that these circuits can be maintained and kept open for emergency communication and for the type communication that is necessary to give everyone necessary information. But we are told that the reservoir has some breaks in it, does have some leaks. We do not have the extent of that situation, so we merely pass that along for your information. The Louisville Free Public Library and its branches will be closed tomorrow. The midnight shift at the Naval Ordnance will not work tonight. The third shift at the American Saw and Tool will not report for work tonight. Jefferson County schools will be closed tomorrow. Louisville schools will be closed tomorrow. Parochial schools in the Louisville area will be closed tomorrow. The Perry County, Indiana schools will be closed tomorrow. Philip Morris, third shift and all day tomorrow, no operation. The Meade County RECC says it's trying to restore electricity as quickly as possible. There is extensive damage, and those people who have electricity should conserve it as much as possible. The Meade County RECC, they urge that if you do have electricity in that area, please attempt to conserve it. There is extensive damage to the facilities. They're trying to repair the damage as quickly as possible, but if you are fortunate enough to have it, please conserve it. Anyone who has missing family in Borden, Indiana should go to Borden High School to report the missing or to find the missing. Battery B, 5th Battalion, 138th Field Artillery. Report to the Armory at the fairgrounds, as soon as you quite possibly can. We'll pass this along again. We haven't had any information to cancel it, but the Red Cross was asking for help in locating 10-year-old Fletcher Curry, the youngster with blonde hair and blue eyes. If you have information about him, please call his father at 458-6069. The Anaconda Container and Package Foil Plant located at 451 Robards Lane will shut down with the 11 o'clock shift. All employees should listen in with the radio tomorrow morning. We will be here, incidentally, throughout the night if necessary, but we will begin tomorrow morning very early reporting what the situation will be tomorrow in all of the areas in Louisville and, of course, over in Frankfort and those sections as well. Those numbers for assistance, the Red Cross number is 589-4450. 589-4450. The Civil Defense number in Louisville is 589-4230. We also have a Civil Defense number for Frankfort, the state office. I do not at the moment have that before me, but I will get to it in just a moment. Bear with me if you need to contact Civil Defense in Frankfort. The Brown and Williamson third shift has been canceled tonight. The first shift will be advised tomorrow morning of what the situation is. Anyone who has food that might need refrigeration, if you can figure out some way to get it there, St. Matthew's Ice House on Westport Road behind Bacon's is offering storage facilities. I see if you have some way to get there, there is an absolute curfew throughout the entire Jefferson County area. This called by the National Guard and by Jefferson County Judge Todd Hollenbach and the people in the mayor's office. The mayor is out of town, but the aldermen are in attendance, most of them at the Civil Defense headquarters this evening and coordinating activities. So they have joined with County Judge Todd Hollenbach in declaring an absolute curfew for all of Jefferson County. The City Hall at Lebanon Junction will take in any person who might be stranded if you need some place to spend the evening. City Hall at Lebanon Junction. The Westbury Apartments on Linden Lane across from Camelot will take in anyone needing shelter. Merely contact the manager there, and they will attempt to assist you. 13 minutes before 10 o'clock, we have not had an update from the Weather Service. Well, I'll correct that. I've just had one handed to me. A tornado warning now in effect until 10:45 Central Daylight Time. That's about another hour, 10:45 Central Daylight Time for these areas of South Central, we'll make that southeastern Kentucky, Mccreary County, Whitley County, Bell, Knox, Clay, Leslie, Perry, Owsley, Breathitt, and Magoffin counties. Also included are the counties of Hart, Greene, Taylor, Marion, and Casey. These would be more or less in the south central sections of Kentucky. A tornado warning, now in effect, will remain so until 10:45 Central Daylight Time for Mccreary, Whitley, Bell, Knox, Clay, Leslie, Perry, Owsley, Breathitt, Magoffin, Hart, Greene, Taylor, Marion, and Casey counties. All of those, of course, are located either in south central or southeastern Kentucky. The good word from the National Weather Service is that it appears that the problem for western Kentucky, for that area west of Interstate 65, and the problem for Indiana, that area west of Interstate 65, has passed. Sky's beginning to clear up somewhat, and we have indications that the front that these storms were preceding is advancing toward us. Should be passing through here sometime in the morning, and that will be good news. That'll clear those things out. The squall line, we hope, will dissipate and not give us any more problems. As far as deaths and injuries, it's a grim story. 23, 24, maybe even 25 people in the Brandenburg, Kentucky area are dead. They have one person missing. We are told that the Meade County High School is being set up as a morgue. In Louisville, we have 5 confirmed deaths so far. No identifications of those available as of yet. The number of people injured, getting up close to 200 now, I guess. We are told that all the patients are well at the Northfield Nursing Home. There has been some damage there, but none of the patients hurt. The Northfield Nursing Home, all the patients are well, even though they did have some damage. The University of Louisville University College canceled classes. I don't know whether this was for tonight or for tomorrow. We will check into that. The University College, Jeff, is the evening group, right? So that would have been for tonight. Through the information, attempting to find something else that we should call to your attention at this point. We've had Milton Metz standing by over in another studio throughout the evening to take over should we get through the bad part of the evening, which we seem to be doing. I don't know whether Milton is still there or not, but we'll be checking. Even if he is, we're told that the phone company would prefer that you not use telephones for a while. It's 10 minutes of 10 from WHAS Louisville, Kentucky. We did have a bit of an earthquake in the Ohio Valley this afternoon. It was centered in southern Illinois, about 130 miles to the east of St. Louis, in the immediate Kentuckiana area. Some people felt their doors or their floors shaking and heard the glasses rattle a little bit. We're told by St. Louis University that it was not of significance, that it would have caused major damage, but they also tell us that it was one of the larger earthquakes that we've had in some time. Milt, how about coming over here? And, I think that might solve our problem somewhat. You have been outside. I saw you walking in the front door. Have you seen any of the areas in town that have been hit?
No, I have just seen some extraordinary film footage that our photographers and reporters have done. And I have talked to as far away as Bloomington, where they've had some earth tremors there, but I have not seen it in person. Glenn made reference earlier to the fact that ordinarily we would be having our phone program, but obviously that's out of the question because of the hard news coverage and the fact that there are still some very chancy areas covered. However, later on, if things calm down somewhat, we may, although we ask you now not to come to the phones and call us. Later on, we may get an opportunity to get some calls from near and far about specific things that happen, not from any kind of sensational curiosity point of view, but merely from an informed point of view, so that we'll be able to perhaps get some kind of perspective on the nature of the damage and how far out geographically it is. But for the time being, we will stay away from the phones and urge you not to call us unless you have some sensational kind of news. And then perhaps later in the evening, when things hopefully will calm down somewhat and an assessment has been made, we will enable you, if you like, to share with us, we hope, the good news and some of the spot news that occurs in your particular area. The responsibility of this station being such because it is a clear channel station and because it covers geographically such a wide area of the United States, and this is now a matter of national concern, we would be interested in getting perhaps some personal viewpoints of what is happening. Meanwhile, Radio 84 WHAS in Louisville asks you to remain tuned because we are in touch with all the officials and getting instantaneous reports on this unspeakable tragedy that's happened in this area.
Thank you, Mel. We have just been told by the police department that they have been overwhelmed by volunteers coming down to the police department, and they say at the moment they have all the people that they need coming down to the police department. That could, of course, change throughout the evening. We have a report from one of the outlying areas. Byron Crawford is on the telephone now. Byron?
Yes, Glenn. Mr. and Mrs. Jim Carpenter of Sellersburg, Indiana, were kind enough to call, and actually we're getting the information on this particular Kentucky county in a roundabout way, seeing as they're from Sellersburg, Indiana. Mrs. Carpenter, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
You told me you had some information from Spencer County, and we've heard little from them so far tonight.
Yes, I talked with my brother-in-law and my mother, and they called to check on us, but they had some damage out there. A tornado did touch down and go through Spencer County, and it's destroyed some buildings, and the only people they knew of so far were two that had been taken to the hospital, and there was one man trapped in a barn, but they're without electricity, and they didn't know what the extent was yet for the area.
What about Sellersburg, Mrs. Carpenter?
Well, so as far as we know, we haven't seen any damage here or in Hamburg. We do know Borden's just above us, and they have had quite a night up there.
Did you feel any earth tremors this afternoon?
No, I didn't. I was home all afternoon. Didn't feel a thing.
Well, we certainly appreciate your letting us know about the situation in Spencer County, and we hope none of us has any more of this tragic weather tonight. Thank you for calling.
Yes, sir.
Glenn?
Here is a partial list of the Louisville victims of tonight's storm. Walter Brooks of Glenwood Circle, we don't have an age on him. Charles Fleming Spencer Jr. of 3924 Old Brownsboro Road. David Koppel, no address given. We are told that a fourth victim was a 4-year-old boy, his name not released, nor have we learned the identity of the fifth victim within the metropolitan Louisville area. But those three identifications that we do have from Metro Louisville: Walter Brooks of Glenwood Circle, Charles Fleming Spencer Jr. of 3924 Old Brownsboro Road, David Koppel, we do not know his address. We do not know the identities of the fourth and fifth person, although we are told the fourth was a youngster, a 4-year-old boy, his name not released. The fifth person not identified. The Borden Elementary and Borden High School will be closed tomorrow. Borden, Indiana, I'm quite sure. Our latest information, those of you in the southeastern section of Kentucky, as far to the west in that area as Casey County, you are under a tornado warning. It will remain in effect until later on this afternoon. Thank you. We have just been handed updated information that they have just had a tornado sighted apparently in northern Kentucky around Falmouth. This moving toward the northeast at 50 miles per hour. So those of you in Ohio, this will affect Brown, Adams, and Highland counties in Ohio. This latest tornado sighted near Falmouth, Kentucky, and moving toward the northeast at about 50 miles per hour. We have still quite a bit of severe weather ranging throughout Ohio and in some sections of Tennessee. Again, though, the Weather Service here in Louisville tells us that for Kentucky and Indiana, the worst appears to be over, with the exception of the southeastern sections, southeastern Indiana and mainly the eastern section of Kentucky. We'll keep you advised. In Cincinnati, AP is saying that 3 square blocks of the Sailor Park section has been destroyed. They say that every house was leveled there. Is that correct, Byron? Sailor?
That's right, and it's right across the river from Kentucky,
located
right on the shore.
Located right on the Ohio River just across from Kentucky. This is in Cincinnati. 3 square blocks of the Sailor Park section destroyed. Every house there flattened, according to this report from the Associated Press. We had 10 people reported dead throughout the state of Ohio. The latest figures from AP, well, these are really not that late. They're practically 45 minutes old now. And they say that in Xenia, Ohio, northeast of Cincinnati, there are at least 10 people dead, 2 people killed in Cincinnati. In Kentucky, in addition to the 5 deaths in Louisville, there have been 2 deaths that we know of in Elizabethtown. There were maybe 23 or 24 deaths reported from Brandenburg, Kentucky. That probably will be the hardest hit community of them all, whether it be in Kentucky or Ohio, where through this period of the storm, that probably will be the hardest hit area. There have been deaths reported from Alabama, from Georgia, from Tennessee, from Indiana, from Kentucky, from Illinois, as these storms just completely rake through the Ohio Valley and some of the points south.
Glenn, I have something on the Brandenburg situation here. We have Sergeant Corby Powers from the Elizabethtown State Police Post on the line. Sergeant Powers, what do you hear from Brandenburg tonight?
Well, at the present time, unconfirmed, we have a total of 24 dead. Approximately 78 plus people have been treated at the Arlen Army Hospital at Fort Knox. The military right now from Fort Knox are on the scene, have secured the area, and presently they are taking care of all security. They do have a makeshift morgue set up at the Meade County High School to take care of the DOAs. This swath through the part of Breckenridge and Meade County accounted for approximately 27. I think there were 3 dead in the Brandenburg, in the Irvington area in conjunction with the 24 in Brandenburg. And, of course, extensive damage in Brandenburg itself.
Is there any concern about persons who might be missing, Sergeant Powers?
Right. There's still, I'm sure that eventually we'll turn up with more that either will be needing treatment or possibly dead themselves in the rubble. You would have to see the scene over there to actually visualize exactly how severe it was. Right now, these number stands unconfirmed, but pretty accurate.
All right, so approximately 27 persons dead in the Irvington area of Breckenridge County and
Brandenburg area.
Primarily in the Brandenburg vicinity.
Right.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't. I've been here in the Hardin County area, which we have had 2 killed in Hardin County around the Elizabethtown area.
Is the entire Brandenburg area and Irvington section sealed off?
Yes, it is. The military from Fort Knox have taken security precautions and sealed it off over there.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant Corby Powers of the Elizabethtown State Police Post. Glenn Baston?
I mentioned earlier that I would give you the civil defense number in Frankfort. If you need to contact the civil defense in Frankfort, this is the number, area code 502-564-4796.
Glenn, it might be of interest to you and to our listeners that the rest of the nation is learning of what has happened in Louisville and the surrounding area. The lead headline on the CBS network news was about Louisville and was about the fact that people were flocking to suburban hospital in the St. Matthews area. So it is like I said, it's the top story in the network news as well as in the local news.
Well, unfortunate publicity, but
yes.
I'm sure that this will be the talk of the nation for the rest of this night. Jim West.
Glenn, to bring you up to date on Indiana fatalities, we do have one more identification. That is, 77-year-old Lily Quiggins was killed in Palmyra this afternoon. So this brings us to about a little more than a half dozen identifications of the known dead. There have been 21 reported fatalities across the state of Indiana, and we have these identified. 73-year-old Harvey Lee Peace, killed in Borden. 48-year-old Joyce J. Lincoln, killed in Depauw. 50-year-old Miss Emma Fry of Seymour, killed in her car about 5 miles southeast of Greensburg. 71-year-old Frank DeVelius, also killed in Greensburg. 85-year-old Mimi Waite was killed in Medora in Jackson County. We have numerous, as we mentioned, 21 fatalities, numerous injuries, uncounted injuries. Just to go over some of the other fatalities that we have around the state of Indiana, mentioning them by counties and cities. Chelsea and Jefferson County, 2 dead. Hanover and Jefferson County, 1 dead. Hamburg and Franklin County, 2 dead, 7 injured. Cortland and Jackson County, formerly listed as Brownstown, 1 dead. Ohio County, 1 dead. Dearborn County, 1 dead. Switzerland County, 1 dead. Decatur County, 2 dead. Otterbein and Tippecanoe County, 1 dead, 4 injured. Branchville and Perry County, 1 dead, 1 critically injured. Depauw and Harrison County, 1 dead. Rochester and Fulton County, 2 dead. Borden and Clark County, 1 dead, 41 injured, 1 critically. Parker and Randolph County, 1 dead, 5 injured. Monticello and White County, 2 dead. Talma, 1 dead. And there are numerous injuries in Hanover County, 27 admitted to the Hancock County Hospital. In Kennard, 8 injuries. Parker, 6 injuries. Bartholomew County, 6 injured also. So as we can see, the fatality list is widespread across the state of Indiana. There has not been one particular community that we know of at this point that has been as hard as hit, though, as Brandenburg here in Kentucky. Glenn?
Well, let's hope that we don't learn. It's 4 minutes past 10 o'clock. This is WHAS in Louisville, Kentucky. We are beginning to get calls from some of you who are far outside the Kentuckiana area. Please let us urge of you the same that we are urging of our local people. Do not call into our lines. Permit us to keep these open for communication that we may have with the various officials. I think, Jeff, that we have just about passed the point of getting information that is pertinent. We have now delivered, I think, just about everything I can think of, except the continuing reports of weather that we may be getting down into the southeastern sections of Kentucky. So let me, if I may, run through.
Before you do, Glenn, I have a request here. I'm not sure it is to be done immediately, but if it is, I guess we better do it.
Go ahead.
We will have to leave the air for about 10 seconds while our transmitter is switched from emergency generator to LG&E power, whatever that means.
Well, that sounds pretty good if LG&E is getting our power back on.
Okay.
We do operate on emergency generators when we have problems with electrical activity. So, are they ready to go now?
I assume so. I was handed the note. Shall we pause 10 seconds and see what happens?
Okay, this is WHAS, Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, that was quite painless, Glenn, and we're back on, and you're back on.
Are all 10 seconds like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we will run through now all of the information that we have and try to give you an update. And then, Milton Metz, if you will, stand by, and we will switch to you when we complete this summary of what's been going on. We're not going to go away. We're just going to stop our continual broadcast. Milton is going to be available for discussion with you, and we are still going to be available from WHAS News. And if the situation should warrant it, we will take it back live and in a continual report basis. So we're still going to be here. We're just going to stop the form of broadcasting that we're in now after we get through a summary report. We have just issued a tornado warning for Boyle, Mercer, Garrett, Woodford, Jessamine, Fayette, Bourbon, Nicholas, Taylor, Marion, and Washington counties. Boyle County, I mentioned it, is also included in this, as well as Scott County. This latest tornado warning is from the National Weather Service. It is for these Kentucky counties: Taylor, Marion, Washington, Boyle, Mercer, Garrett, Woodford, Jessamine, Fayette, Bourbon, Nicholas, and Scott. We are told that there is a strong thunderstorm cell and possibly a tornado in the Taylor County, Washington County, Boyle County areas. These located by radar just within the past 5 or 6 minutes, and thus this tornado warning just issued by the National Weather Service. There is a new tornado watch out. It is for a large portion of Alabama, a large portion of northwest Georgia, a portion of Middle Tennessee, a small portion of east central Mississippi. The threat of tornadoes and severe thunderstorms existing in those areas until 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time this coming Thursday morning. The greatest threat of tornadoes and severe thunderstorms is in an area extending from Montgomery, Alabama to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Persons in or close to this tornado watch area advised to be on the watch for local weather developments and for later statements and warnings. Again, this tornado watch is for a portion of Alabama, northwest Georgia, Middle Tennessee, and east central Mississippi. That tornado warning is for the bluegrass section of Kentucky. Those of you in eastern Kentucky, please remain on alert. The situation still somewhat hazardous in your area. The Ohio River, Oldham County Water District is now running short of water. People in that area should conserve. J-Town's water is critically low. The big firms are asked to close on their third shift. As a matter of fact, countywide, the industrial plants are asked to close down for their third shift tonight. so as to conserve water. Byron, I don't know whether we've had any luck in the past half hour or not at getting the water company to see what the situation is. For your information, we have gone from emergency power back to LG&E power, so that at least is a good sign.
Right, Glenn. Of course, injuries and damage, regrettably, are becoming almost passé at this point, but perhaps we should mention that we've heard that Taylorsville was hit by bad winds this afternoon. 3 or 4 houses at least apparently either seriously damaged or destroyed, and 3 or 4 persons have been taken to hospitals. This is just another report in the many that we're receiving. Of course, we're going to run into dozens of persons injured in Kentucky and Indiana together, perhaps scores of individuals dead and injured. I will attempt to contact the water company, and perhaps during that time we can run through some of the later advisories from the Weather Bureau, and possibly you can catch us up on what's happening with industry and just general information.
Okay, fine. There is a new tornado warning. Now, this is for a couple of counties in Indiana. There is a typographical error in the warning as issued by the Weather Service, but it appears to be Brownson and Shelby counties in Indiana. A tornado reported by the public 10 miles northwest of Bloomington, moving toward the northeast at about 55 miles per hour. Again, that appears that it would be Brown County, I'm sure, but it appears to be spelled Brownson. But Brown and Shelby counties in Indiana, there is a new tornado warning out. The East Washington, Indiana schools, they have been canceled for tomorrow. The Sullivan and Spencerian classes for tomorrow, both day and evening classes, have been canceled. The Watterson College classes were canceled tonight. We are told that all patients at the Northfield Nursing Home are well, for those of you with interest, even though there was some damage there. Father Casper says all Catholic schools in Louisville and Jefferson County will be closed tomorrow. The Jefferson County schools will be closed tomorrow, as will the Louisville City schools. They will be closed tomorrow. The Louisville Free Public Library will be closed tomorrow. Jeff?
Glenn, there are a couple of calls coming in saying that some of the people who have attempted to go to some of the places where volunteers are needed have run into snafus and have been directed to other places and then haven't been able to get there because of the curfew. But in particular, the situation we talked about before, in some of these places, enough volunteers, more than enough volunteers, have arrived at the scene. You know, the good people of Kentuckiana come through as always. So I guess in a lot of these cases, particularly, it might be a good idea just to skip it. If it's in a restricted area, you aren't going to get there, even if you are a volunteer.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there. When we first put out the call for volunteers, of course, they did not have this countywide curfew, which they now have. And the indication we had from the city police a little bit earlier was that volunteer help has been magnificent, the people in turning out, and that they did have a sufficient number. I have indications that we are being monitored in several sections of City Hall, so you people there in the Civil Defense Office, if this is not the case, let us know. But we will assume for the time being that it is. Now, let's continue with some of these closings. The Anaconda Container and Package Foil plant will shut down in 45 minutes or so. All employees who were scheduled to work tomorrow should check with us tomorrow morning, and we'll be giving you information as to whether or not you will. The Highland Day Care Center at 1415 Bardstown Road will be closed tomorrow. The Naval Ordnance will shut down as of midnight tonight. The third shift of the American Saw and Tool will not report for work tonight. The Philip Morris third shift and tomorrow's shifts have been canceled. We have not had updated information. A couple of hours ago, the Meade County RECC told us that they were trying to restore electricity as quickly as possible. There is extensive damage, and those people who have electricity should conserve it as much as possible. If you're in the Borden, Indiana area, one of the areas hardest hit, you have someone missing, you should go to the Borden High School, either to report or to find a missing member of your family. The Brown and Williamson third shift canceled tonight. The first shift for tomorrow should listen to WHAS for information. We will have it tomorrow morning. The Perry County, Indiana schools, they will not meet tomorrow. If you still need some place to stay tonight and you're in the Lebanon Junction area, the City Hall is open. The Westbury Apartments on Linden Lane, across from Camelot, is taking people in if you need shelter in that particular area. Byron is still attempting to get some updated information out of the water company. We were told by Louisville Gas and Electric that they were going to try to get the power back on about 10 o'clock. That hopefully would allow them to start pumping water again all over our area. We have some water problems all over the immediate metropolitan Louisville area. So please attempt to conserve water. Not only attempt to do it, do it. Or we're not going to have left for those emergency needs. The reservoir, we're also told, has some breaks in it. We're told that it was leaking. So that still yet another point in pointing up the necessity of conserving the water. Louisville's water company not the only one low. The Ohio River Oldham County Water District running short of water. J-Town's water said to be critically low. Let us repeat for you one more time the latest tornado warning for southeastern Kentucky. Taylor, Marion, Washington, Boyle, Mercer, Garrett, Woodford, Jessamine, Fayette, Bourbon, Nicholas, and Scott counties. Those, of course, would reach into the bluegrass section of Kentucky. The Louisville Bible College on South 3rd, tomorrow and Friday. They will be closed. The Borden Elementary and Borden High School classes have been canceled for tomorrow. The really bad part of our news, that of the deaths that we have had reported tonight throughout Kentuckiana. They're going to be the number quite high. These identifications of people killed in Louisville: Walter Brooks of Glenwood Circle, Charles Fleming Spencer Jr. of 3924 Old Brownsboro Road, David Koppel, no address. We have a 4-year-old who was killed, not identified yet, a 5th person in Louisville who died, next of kin not notified, and thus the identity not released. As many as 24 people killed in Brandenburg, Kentucky. We had 2 people killed in Elizabethtown. There were deaths elsewhere throughout the state that we are at this moment unable to pinpoint for you. Deaths in Indiana are going to be extremely high. We don't have the exact rundown, but Palmyra was hit hard. Jim West, if you've been with us, ran down the list of those a short time ago. Conoco plant in Okolona closed for the first shift in the morning. This due to the water shortage, we are told. The Clifton Christian Church at 131 Vernon in Crescent Hill is taking in stranded people. Crescent Hill, one of the areas within metropolitan Louisville that was hardest hit. It's now 17 minutes past 10. Milton Metz will be with you momentarily. We're going to hold it for just a couple of more minutes to see if we can find someone who can break away from what they are doing at the water company to give us an update on what the situation up there is. It is not good, we can tell you that, but maybe we can get some sort of report or some sort of indication of just exactly what is going to be happening for the next few hours. The National Guard is out in many sections of Kentucky. It's out in several counties of Indiana. I think about a half dozen. Governor Bowen called out the National Guard. They're, of course, out in Frankfort. Frankfort tonight hit hard by one of the storms that moved to the south of Louisville and then headed straight for Frankfort and hit it head on. We're told damage and injuries there considerable as well. Jeff, may I point out, Byron has someone from the water company, so let's go to him now.
Glenn, we have Paul Coulter on the line, an engineer with the Louisville Water Company. Paul, we know the situation is critical. Has it improved any?
Yes, it has. LGD is working very hard to get power restored to our Crescent Hill plant. Right now, they say possibly in another hour's time that we'll have power restored.
What does this mean in terms of water supply again?
Well, it means that we can start pumping water into the mains again and into the system and fill the reservoirs back up.
Meantime, I guess we should continue trying to conserve water.
Definitely. We've asked all industries not to work tomorrow.
I see. Paul, what about the situation regarding a break that we had reported in the reservoir?
Oh, no, that's not true.
That was an erroneous report.
Yes.
All right. So, If you had to measure the seriousness of the situation right now, could you sum it up for us before we close out the reporting tonight, until we learn some new facts in the morning?
Well, until we get power restored to Crescent Hill, the people are going to have to conserve their water and only use it for drinking purposes. Now, having power restored by 11 o'clock is still a guess at this time.
Would you guess that there's a possibility we'll have the pumps running again tomorrow morning?
I would think so, yes.
All right. Well, let's hope so.
Yes.
We'll be in touch with you, and I'm sure you'll be working throughout the night on the situation. And as soon as we're able to begin using water again at full strength, I assume you'll let us know.
We definitely will.
Thank you. Paul Coulter, an engineer with the Louisville Water Company. Glenn?
Byron, let me correct you. We're not going anywhere. We're just going to turn it over to Milton Metz for the anchor position. We're going to stay here probably throughout the night, and we'll be on the air with a continual report very early tomorrow morning. Is there one final phone call there, Jeff?
No, not at all, Glenn. I just wanted to say before you send it over, without getting maudlin about it, disaster brings out not only some, terrible things, but it also brings out the best in people, as we have seen tonight through the community, the way the community has reacted to what has happened, and the volunteers, the overwhelming response, the people helping hands, people phoning in information, and it also brings out the best, in my opinion, in our WHAS news team. And you have been here on this news desk since late afternoon. And as a guy who's just been sitting here listening, I thank you for your public service and for your help in aiding all of us get through this. Let us switch now to Milton Metz, who will be, I imagine, taking some phone calls. And you will be still here, and any late-breaking information, you will all have it for everyone, right?
Right. Van Vance has something to say. I don't know what it is before you go.
Tonight I just got a call, and this concerns the fairgrounds and the game that was going there tonight. The engineers haven't had time to get in, but they'll come in and check Freedom Hall tomorrow morning early to see if there was any structural damage, and then they'll have an idea as to how long it'll take to fix the basketball arena part of Freedom Hall. Is for that exposition wing. That's going to take a long time. But the basketball game that was to be played at Freedom Hall tonight between Kentucky and Carolina will be played tomorrow night at Convention Center. They'll open up tomorrow morning around 10 o'clock, and season ticket holders are able to go there and get their tickets. And then there'll be a game in Greensboro on Friday night. The Charlotte game, which was to have been on Saturday, has been canceled because they'd be playing 3 straight nights. They'll be back to Greensboro on Monday. And as to how long it'll take to get Freedom Hall or another location back here in Kentucky, we don't know yet. But those arrangements arrived at tonight in discussions from New York and here in Louisville.
Okay, Van. We've just been told by the post office that all night shift workers should report to work on schedule. The postmaster is saying that postal employees are exempted from the countywide curfew imposed earlier by the civil defense. The postmaster is saying the mails will be snarled unless all postal workers report on schedule. They have now tabulated as many as 46 deaths in the state of Kentucky. This is an Associated Press tabulation. 6 deaths reported from Whitehall near Richmond, Kentucky. Not only does Louisville and Jefferson County have a curfew now, there is also one in effect in Frankfort and in Brandenburg, Kentucky. 22 minutes past 10. Let's go to Milton Metz.
This is Milton Metz at 22 minutes after 10. Ordinarily, we have a phone-in program somewhat earlier in the evening, but obviously tonight that came second place. From a little before 5 until now, WHAS News has been keeping you up to date on the fast-moving tragedies of nature that have been occurring in our state and nearby areas, and reporting all the things that have happened, and the instructions from the civil authorities to bring order to this chaos. We will continue out throughout the night to bring you pertinent details and bulletins from WHAS News. And now we would ask you if you have any specific reports that you think would be noteworthy, whether you live here in Kentucky or Indiana or Tennessee or Michigan or wherever, or Cincinnati, and you'd like to call me and give us a report on an unusual occurrence in your vicinity, or on the spot eye report that you have witnessed. My number is 585-2385. We'll be here indefinitely, and we will broadcast your messages and your conversation with me. If you want to call long distance, I would remind you that the area code for this station, this is WHAS in Louisville, Kentucky, is 502. Direct distance dialing is a little bit cheaper, and I doubt if it'll get you in any faster if you call person to person, but do if you so prefer. 502 is our area code. My number is 585-2385, and we solicit any calls you have with any pertinent information about the devastation. And not that we are sensation mongers here. We are trying to get a complete picture, though our reporters have fanned out in all directions to bring you the last-minute reports. Nevertheless, we know that many people, for instance, are without phone communication. And since you have been asked in this area anyway to observe a voluntary curfew in some areas and a mandatory curfew in other areas, the only means of communication you have other than conversation with your next-door neighbors is perhaps by listening to a radio station such as WHAS. The death count, whatever it is unfortunate and tragic, but it is considerably lower in Louisville than it might be. The situation in Brandenburg, of course, assumes a profound disaster, and people everywhere are saddened by the death count, which is more than a score of people in that small community. Because of the superpower of this clear channel station, which has 50,000 watts of maximum power, that our voice is being carried perhaps in far distant corners of the nation where sublime weather prevails, and more credit to you. But here, portions of our state and nearby areas have been devastated by one of the worst tornadoes and severe weather outbursts that we have had in scores of years. And the rebuilding is taking place, the community is taking hold, and now we're getting reports. Hello, this is Metz. Come in, please.
Yes.
You're on.
Mr. Metz?
You're right, sir.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Sir, my name is Leon Allman, and I live here in Louisville, right in Shively. And I've been hearing quite a bit about the devastation down in the Brandenburg area. And I know that a lot of people are like myself. There are a lot of small communities around Brandenburg, and no one is able to get a telephone call into these areas. As an example, Painesville, Webster, Midway, little towns around Brandenburg that many of us in Louisville have relatives in those little towns around in that same county, and haven't heard any reports of it all. So if there's anyone that knows anything about what's happening, as an example, in Painesville, in Meade County, and Webster, Meade County, if they would call in and let us know how those little towns are faring. Now, they're real close to Brandenburg, but we haven't heard anything. And we can't get any telephone calls down there, and they can't call us either. So, and I know I speak for quite a few people who in this area who do have friends and relatives in the little communities around Brandenburg. If some of them would call in, I think they'd be doing a service to your listeners.
Yes, and you have done a service to us, sir, by noting that, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Now, it's possible that someone may have been in that area if phone service is out, and when they get out of the area would be good enough to call us here at 585-2385 with news of those small communities. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good night. This is Metz.
My name is Charlie Pickerel. I work at the Ford truck plant in the pre-delivery building. Along about 12 minutes to 5, a fellow from Dealers Transport asked me to come out and look and see what was going on in the sky, and I went out and looked towards the southwest. Here was this tornado coming down, and just as it touched down, you could see just sparks and everything coming far, and just explosions. I imagine it was a Crescent Hill Reservoir, and we watched this tornado for, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 minutes as it traveled up 42, just completely just tearing up everything. You could see roofs flying in the air and debris, and it would raise up from time to time, and in a period of 3 or 4 minutes, it just completely just disappeared.
A sensational, disturbing sight.
I never saw anything like it before in my life, and I hope I never see it again.
Right, sir. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Here's a note from WHAS News. Hanover College in Indiana suffered a direct tornado hit in the storms that hit Kentuckiana. Most of the trees on campus were destroyed, as well as 2 sorority houses. There are no reports of injuries. I repeat, no reports of injuries. School officials at Hanover say all the students are safe and all have shelter. No need for parents to worry. 585-2385, Milton Metz here. Hello.
Mr. Metz?
Right.
This is Lieutenant Dixon, Army Ammunition Plant in Charlestown.
Lieutenant who?
Dixon.
Welcome, sir.
We have several hundred people here that lives in the Louisville area, and they are wondering how they're going to get home if possible. Have you received any word on if they will be allowed to travel the streets?
Well, let me put it this way, Lieutenant. There is a voluntary curfew over all Jefferson County till 6 a.m., but there is a mandatory curfew for a portion of eastern Jefferson County, and I understand that this is iron-bound, that even if one lives in that area, that one is not allowed to go in there. So it depends on where they live. My other information, and I have Byron Crawford here from WHAS News, is that people are free to go outside of the mandatory curfew area. Is that right, Byron?
Milton, I have been led to believe from one of the police officials in the last hour or so that an absolute curfew has now been put on Jefferson County, the entire county, meaning that there should really be no one on the streets in Louisville or Jefferson County at all if they have no official business.
All right, now this is Lieutenant Dixon at Charlestown. He says there are several hundred Louisvillians there who are unsure about whether they can return home and what they should do about it, and whether they will be refused admission if they come over the bridge and go into their residences in Jefferson County. Can we get some clear-cut kind of ruling on that?
Following the formula that was laid out to us, Milton, I would say that they would not be permitted to return to the county at this time, but I certainly will attempt to get a ruling on that from the officials here in Louisville and Jefferson County, and we'll try to find out what the situation is.
All right, Lieutenant, you heard that. Can you stay tuned, and Newsman Crawford will try to find out the facts on this situation.
Okay, sir, I sure will.
Stay with us, and we won't forget it, but we'll get it back as soon as we can. Give us, be a little patient till we get the right authority with the clout to give us the right information.
Okay, Mr. Matz, appreciate it.
Milton, I'll add one thing at this point. We, of course, have many phone calls coming into the newsroom at WHAS, but we're happy to take the information if it's pertinent information and information that people around here need to know. We have 4 or 5 people back there taking calls. Our number is in the book, and we'll be glad to take the information if it's something that is going to be needed tomorrow. How's that?
Yes, and of course our number is available here for reports that you think are newsworthy, 585-2385, and we'll find out about the whys and wherefores of the curfew from Crawford when he comes back.